Ruben Alvarez, thanks a lot for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy this week, and it's a privilege to have you here.
Yeah, the privilege is all mine to be on here. Love what you do, so I'm glad to be here and ready to get started.
Awesome. First question is, what does a SWAT officer carry every day on the job? Does it vary from mission to mission, or do you have like a standard kit?
So I can't speak for other SWAT teams. I can only speak for the one that I'm on. It's they'll give you the basic necessities, the plate carrier, the plates, and then you mold it to how you want your kit to be. It's molded to your style. They do issue us, firearms that are assigned to the team, and then it's off of your preference on what you want to do. So, whatever light you feel comfortable with, you have to run the lasers that we have and the optics that we have, but you can set it up the way you want to set it up, like, grips, little mods that you like that you think is going to be better for you. As far as gear, like different guys run different belts, different, vests, they give you the ones that they issue, but you could buy your own. Some guys like Cry, some guys like Spiritus, some guys like different plate carriers, and then they'll run different pouches. And also whatever speciality you're on, if you're a breacher, energetic breacher, sniper. We have guys that are a wet team, which is waterborne. They have like specific kit stuff. So it varies on what team you're on. I know ours, they give us a lot of freedom to put whatever we want on our kits.
That's cool to know. I was wondering if, like if you could just if you're a SIG guy, you can bring your own SIG, or if you have to use Glocks.
So the team has an issued gun. We run Glock 17s, so we have those. We have them a little tricked out for us, but we run. Everybody on the team has a Glock sidearm, and then we have our M4s that are assigned to us. So we use whatever the agency issues us. It's not what like our regular road patrol. They're allowed to pick whatever handgun they have that's on an approved list. But I think our agency soon is going to go to a standard platform where everybody's running the same gun, same optic, and I think even the same light.
That must make it nice if, if something breaks down, you just grab something, right? Everything's interchangeable. Would that be the reason for that, or is it because everything's vetted?
To be honest, I don't know the real reason behind that. It could be those reasons that you're saying. I don't want to speak for the agency as itself, but I know for me, it's like I want people to have something that they're going to be proficient with. I want them to have something that is they're gonna be comfortable with. Doing a whole run of the same gun. People have different hand sizes. People have different ways of seeing optics. I want to use optic that's better for me, or I have a bigger window probably. But standardization. And if they want to do that, hey, by all means, that's cool too. I have nothing against either or. I just see the pros and cons to each. But I guess those are the reasons why they're doing it. Or maybe it's just really good funding. So don't really know.
What was your childhood like growing up, and where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Miami, Florida. Uh, both my parents are police officers. My mom's still actively working as a police officer. She works road patrol midnights. My dad is a retired police officer from Miami-Dade. He was a gang unit, did all that stuff, OG guy, and then he retired 30 years with Miami-Dade, and he was part of their enforceable writ. So he did like subpoenas, court orders, and things like that. And my childhood was great. Both parents were cops. Was also raised by my grandmother and my grandparents, my grandfather and my grandmother from my dad's side, and then my grandmother from my mom's side raised me. She lived with us, so she was awesome, old Irish woman. Still crochets and watches UFC. She's awesome. And yeah, uh, family was all into martial arts. My dad, and mom did karate together. They brought me in, did karate, and then yeah, chill childhood. I don't have any traumas or anything like that, so it was a good childhood.
So, were your parents the reason that you wanted to get into law enforcement?
Yeah, my parents were a big reason on why I wanted to get into law enforcement. Whole family's cops. My cousin was a cop. My aunt's a retired cop. My uncle's a retired cop. It's just thing in the family. So I did the whole grappling thing, and then eventually was like, okay, cool, I'll go be a cop. Like ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a cop, and then it just came full circle and became a cop. Follow the whole family tradition.
For the non-law enforcement people out there, what exactly is SWAT and what is their duty in the police force?
So what SWAT is a bunch of dudes that take a lot of testosterone and they wear a kit and they run around acting like they're better than everybody. I'm just kidding. No, SWAT is special weapons and tactics. So it depends on what agency you're in, but it's guys who train a little bit more. They take training very seriously, and they get all the cool gear and they get to look cool and all that, but they have to specialize in certain tactics. They're like the break glass in case of emergency, and yeah, that's basically what SWAT is. But each agency has a different way of how they approach SWAT.
What criteria do you have to meet to become a SWAT officer?
So I know in our agency, you have to have 2 years probation. You have to be a cop for at least 2 years with us, unless if you have, like, I think prior military service. I'm not 100% sure. And then you have to go through a selection process. So you go through a tryout. You pass a tryout, then you go to a oral board where you have to talk in front of our team leaders and our command staff, and then you get requested to go to SWAT school. So SWAT school for us is 3 weeks, and it's just it's a pretty brutal selection process. We have a low attrition rate, so usually each school will graduate 2, 3, maybe 4 candidates, and then they'll go through another portion of training. They're not fully on the team yet. They have to go through a in-doc phase where they have to show proficiency in building tactics, and how they mesh well with the team before they're fully vetted onto the team.
So yeah, that seems like you have to be a cut above the rest to be a SWAT officer.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to show that you are willing to go over and beyond. It's very taxing. You're on call 24/7. You have to go to some of the worst events that there is. That it's bad. If they're calling us out, it's already bad. Like the guy's barricaded, or the guy shot somebody, or even a hostage rescue, or hey, this guy's giving us no leeway and we have to go make entry. So you're dealing with somebody that doesn't want to go to jail or anything like that, or they want to hurt a lot of people. So yeah, SWAT's it's a hefty job.
What is a typical day like for a SWAT officer?
So like it depends on what agency you're with. My agency, we have like quasi full-time status where we go around the county, and at least the unit that I'm on, it's all SWAT, and we just respond to active incidents. And then if we get call outs, we'll go to call outs, which is barricaded subjects, hostage rescue, terrorist attacks, things like that, or even civil unrest where there's riots going on and they need us to go protect the guys that are doing the field force. So SWAT varies in all natures.
What is Paradox Training, your company?
Bicep here, open hand, pushing here, locking my arm out, working down to the wrist, okay? And then pinning the wrist to here. Do that like 3 or 4 times and then switch. So Paradox is a company I started about 4 years ago probably. And I started to do more combatives because what I was seeing in the combatives community was a lack of like understanding, and it was like selling snake oil. I got the blessing from Craig Douglas under ShivWorks to teach the curriculum that I teach now. And, I've been through a lot of other combative courses, curriculums and things like that. I have some instructor certifications at other combative courses, and I noticed that ShivWorks was a little bit different than the rest, and I really liked and vibed with how ShivWorks was. So I asked Craig Douglas if I could start training and teaching people, with his blessing after, training with him for a few years, and he gave me the blessing, and I started Paradox, to get more local guys in the area to start training more on the weapons-based entanglements because I was seeing a lack of it coming from a jiu-jitsu background. So that's how I started Paradox. I could go here right away, get to my gun.
So you mentioned Craig Douglas and the ShivWorks curriculum. How does that compare to the other curriculums out there, something like, say, the Spear program, or I don't know. There's many. How did what exactly was it about ShivWorks that was different?
For me, what ShivWorks was different was is that they have a set of operating skills and principles that they apply, and there's also stress inoculation with a force on force component to validate the techniques that you learn, which are called evolutions. The only other combative company that I've seen that does something like that is Special Operations Combatives program, SOCP under Greg Thompson. Great curriculum as well, and I've trained with him and I love his curriculum. That's probably the only other curriculum that I know that has a stress inoculation using force on force. So it's like realism, you're seeing the business end of a sim gun and you got to fight, and I think it's huge that that's what separated ShivWorks and SOCP from the rest of the combatives that I've seen is that there is a stress inoculation component to it where you have to pressure test what you're doing to show validity to the techniques.
So it's not the stuff you see on Instagram where you're going to the range and somebody's yelling at you that you're not holding the gun right. You're actually showing people in a situation like if you're going to get jumped or if you need to take someone down, and then you get to use a sim gun at the to to test it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we get to see what works and what doesn't work. Everybody thinks, hey, take somebody down to the ground, but there's also factors of it too. Like, let's say from a law enforcement standpoint, you're wearing kit, all this. Do I really want to be fighting somebody on the ground? Or maybe they have friends. Do I want to be fighting with somebody on the ground where I can't see if the other friends are showing up? There's other adversaries, as well as are they armed? Are they not armed? Is it equal armament? Is it unequal armament? Things like that a lot of people don't really get to see. It becomes very primitive in nature. And it's just like what Craig told me a while back is like you have two technical blue belts in jiu-jitsu, you throw a little sim gun in front of them, it goes from technical to primitive very quick. So you get to see how you respond to stress. That's why it's big on the stress inoculation. See how you react to things. And we see a lot of people that didn't know that they could respond so well to the stress. And I'm not saying it's going to be the same thing as if you do it in real life, but it's going to help you get to that where and you show a little confidence and you know what to expect at least.
Got it. Do you welcome civilians, or is it just geared towards law enforcement? And what can a civilian expect? I know you went over a little bit, but um, how if you do take civilians, what would make them comfortable to take your class?
So civilians are allowed to take it as long as, they are allowed to carry a firearm. You can't have any felony convictions to take our courses because you are using simunition guns. Um, But what they can expect is just, I'm not going to scream at you. I'm not going to do crazy things. I'm not going to tell you like, hey, ninjas are going to come out. I am going to give you a little bit of reality, but I'm going to make it fun in the atmosphere. You don't have to be in shape. You don't have to be a jiu-jitsu person. You could just come off of the streets and be like, hey, I want to learn how to, you know, handle myself a little bit better. And I started carrying, as a civilian, concealed carry, and I have a permit. People think that it's just like, hey, I have a permit, now I'm able to like move around with a gun. It's like there's other things you need to do. You need to start training, be proficient with it, especially in a hands-on encounter. Most of these things happen within 3 to 5 meters. You're talking to somebody and then you get cracked in the face. How are you going to respond to that? And if you're carrying a gun too, you have to know what to do. So yeah, it's open to civilians, not just law enforcement. That's the biggest misconception that we have.
Cool. Um, are there different levels to the curriculum? You have ECQC, is that right? What does that stand for?
So ECQC is Craig Douglas's. It's Extreme Close Quarter Concepts. What I run is a ECQC Skill Builder, which is a derivative of what Craig Douglas does. The skill builders are just to help you build up. So when you do take Craig Douglas's 3 days ECQC, you're a little bit better prepared because it's a lot of techniques to like really condense into somebody. So we make it, levels. We make it in tier levels. So we do the whole crawl, walk, run, and we do the evolutions as well. So it's a good preparation for the whole 3 day ECQC course.
Got it. So, to change direction a little bit, you're a SWAT officer and you were a police officer also. The question I always see or always have when I see like a video on Instagram where everybody's filming a cop, maybe struggling to take somebody down or keep them restrained. If a bystander sees an officer struggling, can they jump in, or do officers not want public to jump in and help?
As a human, like it should be, you see another human that's doing something good, taking down somebody that's willing to cause harm on you, and you see that that person's struggling. I would, you should go in there and help them. You know, if you're just gonna stand on watching with your phone and just be a nuisance, you're not doing anything productive to society, right? So if you see that an officer is struggling, help them out, but let them know before you're going to go help them out. Hey, I'm here to help you, officer, and then get in there. There's one perfect scenario, not perfect, but one scenario that happened was a St. Lucie cop was about to get his gun taken, and a civilian that was seeing that with a CCW permit saw that happening and shot the bad guy. You know, he saved the cop's life while the suspect's actively trying to take the cop's weapon away from him. So yeah, you should step in, but let them know that you're going to step in and help them. Don't just show up because he might not know who you are. So, yeah, you can step in and help them but if they're saying, hey, step back, I got this. All right, that officer's proficient. Don't help him out. You know, you're probably going to cause more harm. But if you see that he's getting his ass kicked, yeah, step in and help him.
What is something somebody could do if there's an active shooter? Like if you're in a building, say a mall, um, and you're walking around, you hear an active shooter. Should you run and hide in a room? Should you, I mean, obviously you want to call the police, but like, what are some things that people can do if there is a situation like that?
So the active shooter thing's or active killer or whatever they're calling it nowadays is very tricky, right? You know, if you have your family, try to get your family out of there. You know, you can hide. You could try that. That might help you, or you could fight. It's really on you. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you what you should or should not do. You know, I know what I will do because I've been in those situations, but I'm not gonna tell how somebody should react. You know, especially if they don't have any training or anything like that. But the biggest thing is if you're not law enforcement, best bet is try to get your family to safety. You know, try to do what you can. And if you are a CCW holder or you train and you're proficient enough and you feel you could take the threat down, by all means try it. But just be careful because if law enforcement shows up and you don't have any identification or indicator showing that, hey, I'm a good guy, they might think you're the bad guy. And you could say, hey, the description was given out to dispatch, but dispatch can get so many descriptions, and by the time it gets to the cops, it's the wrong description. So they're just seeing gun, you know, especially with that tunnel vision and everything like that. They just see a gun. So they don't know if you're a good guy or a bad guy. So you make sure that you know what you're doing. Make sure you take good accredited courses on it. You know, I know there's a lot of like civilian active killer courses out there. The only ones I teach are for security folks and law enforcement. But, you know, best thing I can tell you is just try to get your family to safety and make sure you know what you're doing.
Is there anything else you'd like to add regarding paradox or?
No, just come check out a class. You know, it's there's a big misconception that you have to be in shape or you have to be a grappler or a fighter. You know, it's like I take all walks of life. You know, just come take the class, see how fun it is. You know, it's not like what you see on social media. Everybody believes everything that they see on social media from a 30-second clip. It's not barbaric. You know, there are set training modalities within the course to make sure there's injury prevention. There's always going to be injuries in any course that you do, or the risk of injury, but we mitigate it a lot. You know, we teach people how to drill and how to train. A lot of people want to do the cool stuff where they wear the kit, do all the sexy shooting, but most times you're going to end up in a combative situation before you end up getting in a shooting. That's just how it goes. Watch World Star, watch YouTube, you're going to see it. It's always usually a confrontation first, and then it gets to where there's gunplay involved. So just come check out the class. It's fun. A lot of people love it. Haven't had any negative reviews yet on it, but everything's been positive. So
How can people see your content and or get a hold of you?
they could get a hold of me through the Instagram. We have paradox_training.com, or they could go on the website, which is paradox-training.com. They can send me an email there too. Go on the website, check out everything. Our Instagram is paradox_training. That's where we post a lot of our evolutions, a lot of our content, and things like that.
Ruben, I really appreciate it. I really believe in what you're doing, and keep it up, please.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you're doing here with us. This is great. So whatever you need, let me know.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.